There are places on Earth where the biological rules of nature seem to have fractured. Trees do not always grow toward the light, and sap does not always run clear. We tend to view woodlands as places of quiet refuge and predictable growth. But if you walk deep enough into certain isolated groves, the silence stops feeling like peace and starts feeling like an observation. Human psychology often registers dense timberlands as zones of threat, a lingering survival instinct from our earliest ancestors. Forests are complex networks of competition, chemical warfare, and decay that operate on a timescale we simply cannot perceive. Today we examine 5 specific ecosystems where the natural order bends into something unrecognizable. These are environments shaped by extreme geology, unexplained phenomena, and fierce geographical isolation. We will separate the botanical facts from the local myths, exploring the harsh realities required for survival in these strange territories. If you find value in exploring the obscure and unsettling corners of our planet, consider subscribing as we journey into the underbrush. Number 5 is the ancient Redwood forest in the United States. Coastal fog conceals a prehistoric ecosystem that has stood quietly along the Pacific edge since the Jurassic period. Botanists confirm that Sequoia sempervirens are the tallest living organisms on Earth. They pull moisture directly from the heavy marine layer to sustain towering heights exceeding 300 feet. The sheer scale of this upper canopy provides an unparalleled sanctuary for diverse avian life and specialized insects. Yet the acidic soil below is notoriously poor in nutrients, forcing these giants to rely entirely on a fragile, interwoven root system. A single falling trunk creates a violent rupture in the forest floor. It is the lack of deep taproots that makes the entire grove highly vulnerable to a sudden, synchronized collapse. Biologists have discovered that these trees actually alter their own local climate. They trap cold air within their branches to slow evaporation, essentially engineering their own atmospheric survival condition. Deep within the most remote groves, albino redwoods exist as stark biological anomalies. Without chlorophyll to produce food, these ghost trees survive as parasitic entities. They graft their roots onto healthy neighbors, draining nutrients in the dark to sustain their pale, needleless branches. While the redwoods command the sky through brute scale, another forest across the Pacific swallows the light through sheer density. Number 4 is the Arashiyama bamboo grove in Japan. Thousands of towering stalks sway in perfect unison, filtering the mid-morning sun into a pale, aquatic haze. From a botanical standpoint, bamboo is classified as a grass rather than a traditional tree. It is characterized by rapid vascular growth that can exceed 36 inches in a single day under optimal conditions. Local residents have long harvested these flexible stalks for traditional crafts and rural architecture. However, the aggressive underground rhizome root system ruthlessly chokes out all other native plant species, creating a strict botanical monoculture. When the wind passes through the thicket, the hollow stalks collide. They produce a resonant wooden grinding sound that mimics the low frequency of a human whisper. The Japanese Ministry of the Environment formally designated the acoustics of this grove as one of the 100 soundscapes of Japan. This is a rare governmental recognition of a landscape's unique auditory signature, rather than just its visual beauty. Despite the ancient aesthetic of the location, the specific arrangement of the pathways is largely a modern cultivation. The viewing corridors were designed strictly to manipulate human perception and guide the flow of foot traffic. The illusion of infinite green creates a disorienting, vertical labyrinth that hides the sky. But this dense terrestrial maze is nothing compared to an ecosystem suspended entirely in the clouds. Number 3 is Zhangjiajie National Forest in China. 3,000 quartzite sandstone pillars rise from a submerged basin, holding fragments of dense jungle suspended high above the mist. Geologists attribute this fractured topography to millions of years of physical erosion. It is a landscape carved by expanding winter ice and relentless chemical weathering from acidic rain. The isolated microclimates atop these rocky spires protect rare terrestrial species like the Chinese giant salamander. Yet the vertical terrain makes daily survival a harsh, dangerous caloric struggle for the indigenous macaque populations. Heavy mist routinely obscures the sheer drop of the ravines, swallowing the horizon line. This atmospheric trick leaves hikers and climbers with a persistent, dizzying lack of spatial orientation. These peaks are not mountains formed by tectonic uplift. They are the leftover core structures of a decaying plateau that has been rotting away for millennia. Some of the highest, most isolated stone towers are entirely topped with thriving, old-growth foliage. These hanging gardens survive with zero connection to the groundwater or rich soil deposits found in the valley beneath them. Nature here carves stone with water in vast amounts of time. Yet elsewhere in the world, an unknown force has manipulated the wood itself. Number 2 is the crooked forest in Poland. 400 pine trees emerge from the soil with identical, severe curved bends at their bases, all pointing uniformly due north. Foresters verify through core samples that these pines were planted around the year 1930. The structural curvature occurred abruptly when the saplings were approximately 7 to 10 years old. The surrounding woodland consists of standard, straight-growing timber that supports a typical European forest ecology. This contrast makes the isolated patch of deformed trees a highly localized and baffling anomaly. There is an eerie mechanical precision to the curves, resembling the ribs of a shipwreck. It strongly suggests a deliberate, external intervention rather than a random environmental mutation. There is no clear consensus among modern dendrologists regarding the actual cause. Some researchers suggest a heavy snowstorm could have flattened the saplings during a crucial growth phase. However, this weather hypothesis fails to explain why the immediately adjacent trees remain perfectly straight and unaffected. The prevailing historical theory proposes that local farmers physically pin the young trees to the ground. They may have intended to grow naturally curved timber for specialized boat hulls or furniture construction, but the sudden outbreak of World War II permanently interrupted their harvest. This left the agricultural tools and the definitive truth buried in the ashes of the 20th century. The bent pines remain as a quiet, living scar of human history. But our final destination is a place that feels entirely disconnected from the biological rules of this planet. Number 1 is the Dragon's Blood Forest in Yemen. High on the remote Socotra archipelago, a vast canopy of umbrella-shaped branches casts dark, circular shadows across a brutal limestone plateau. Scientific classification identifies these peculiar structures as Dracaena cinnabari. They are a slow-growing evergreen species that evolved to capture airborne moisture from ocean fog in a region bereft of surface water. The indigenous Bedouin communities have historically relied on these trees to shelter their livestock and harvest valuable medicinal resins. But a shifting global climate and decades of extreme geopolitical isolation have quietly pushed this fragile ecosystem to the brink of collapse. When the thick reptilian bark of the trunk is pierced, the tree immediately secretes a dark, viscous resin. This sap oxidizes rapidly upon contact with the air, turning a deep crimson color. It bears a deeply disturbing visual resemblance to coagulated blood. The strange, upturned geometry of the branches is not an accident of random mutation. It is a highly specialized evolutionary adaptation designed to funnel condensation directly down the trunk. This allows the tree to hydrate its own root system, bypassing the sun-baked, nutrient-starved soil. There is no clear consensus on how long this isolated forest can endure current drought conditions. Some researchers suggest that the delicate balance of fog and temperature that sustains them is already permanently broken. Botanists have realized a grim reality during recent ecological surveys of the island. There are almost no young saplings left growing anywhere on the plateau. Goats introduced to the island consume the young shoots before they can harden into mature trunks. This means the alien forest we see today is essentially a living graveyard. It is a final, lingering generation of ancient trees simply waiting out the end of their biological cycle. The red sap was once highly prized in the ancient world as a dye and a medical coagulant, connecting this lonely island to the fall of the Roman Empire. Today, we are quietly witnessing the expiration of a prehistoric lineage that has survived for millions of years. These 5 forests remind us that the natural world is not a manicured garden built for our comfort. It is a silent, ongoing experiment of harsh adaptation, genetic mutation, and desperate survival. The bleeding resin of Socotra and the inexplicably bent pines of Poland force us to confront our own limited understanding of biology. They ask a difficult, lingering question about the environments we leave behind. Are we observing the triumphant resilience of nature, or are we simply documenting its slow, beautiful decay? Share your perspective and your theories in the comments below. If this journey altered the way you view the wilderness, leave a like and subscribe for more grounded explorations into the unknown.